Hello and welcome to the I Am Woman project, where every week we have deep, thought-provoking and interesting conversations with thought leaders, change instigators, rule breakers and creative minds who think differently, sparking creativity and inspiration. Our special guests on our show cover a variety of topics just for you, and they share their personal stories to inspire, motivate and empower you, our listener. The I Am Woman podcast is produced for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at www.catherineplano.com. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favourite RSS feed or iTunes. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get into the show. Today we have the incredibly talented Taryn Williams, a former international model and event producer. Taryn Williams is an entrepreneur, a speaker, founder and CEO of The Right Fit and Wink Models. While she's still across both of her businesses, she works full-time with The Right Fit, which is a platform disrupting the status quo among talent agencies and the clients that use them. Taryn remains a senior advisor to the Wink team, which was founded in 2007, a leading commercial modelling agency. Taryn has made a strong name for herself in the industry over the past 10 years and has been named as a finalist in the 2015 Female Entrepreneur Awards, 2015 BNT Hot 30 Under 30 and Smart Company 30 Under 30. So I'm sure you will be blown away with this interview. So sit back, tune in and enjoy. So welcome to the show, Taryn Williams. How are you today?
I'm really well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm very good. As I was just saying, I'm so glad we finally have got you on the show. We've been trying for quite some time now.
It's great to finally make our schedules work.
I know. So you were saying before you've been really, really busy. So do you want to maybe start with telling us a little bit about what you do and how you got to where you got to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I founded my first business, Wink Models, nearly bang on 10 years ago now. So that's been keeping me busy for a decade. I founded that when I was 21 years old, and it sort of rose from, I'd been in the industry a long time, working both client side as a producer and talent side as an ex-model myself, and sort of saw all the pain points in the industry and all the things that I wanted to change and making it more efficient, making the experience better for clients and talent and treating people fairly and with decency and respect, and most importantly, paying them on time. And so that was sort of the idea for my first business, Wink, and we've now got over 650 models Australia-wide, offices in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, an amazing team that run that business and do all of the hard yards day to day. So I'm very, very blessed to have an incredible managing director in that business who looks after it now, because about 12 months ago I stepped away to start another business called The Right Fit, which is an online marketplace for creative talent. So we have essentially anything that you could need to bring together an above the line or below the line campaign. So photographers, models, social media influencers, hair and makeup artists, stylists, the list sort of goes on. And we've built a two-sided marketplace to connect these people. So when clients need talent, they can post a job and find the people that they need. And when talent want work, they can find jobs available that suit them. And we manage all of the booking and payment process straight through the platform to make it all safe and secure and just deal with that latent supply and demand in our industry to allow people to find work and manage their own careers and keep themselves safe and sound. So that's been keeping me very, very busy for the last sort of 12 months. We raised venture capital funding last year. So we've just been on a aggressive growth path and onboarding clients and talent and learning a lot along the way. So it's been, an incredible year.
Wow, you do have your hands full. So how did you start all this? Did this all start for you as a model?
Yeah, so I started modeling when I was about 15 and really, really loved the industry. I mean, it afforded me some amazing opportunities. I got to travel the world. I got to work with some of the most incredibly talented and creative people. And yeah, just have some amazing life experiences that I don't think, a young person would get in any other sort of career. So I really, really loved the industry, and there were so many things I loved about it, but there were so many pain points and so many inefficiencies and inequalities, and people who had bad experiences with their bookers, or weren't treated fairly, or who didn't get paid on time, or who didn't get paid at all. And it was sort of what the industry was known for. So the whole idea for Wink sort of came out of my experience firsthand, going through that process, and then having worked client side as a producer, seeing it from a client's perspective and seeing how inefficient it was for a client as well. How manual everything was, and how time consuming the whole process was, and that they didn't get great services from these middlemen, these agents and brokers in between either. So.
Wow, that's interesting. So obviously you can see just from your experience that's what got you inspired to do what you're doing, and you are very driven. And I guess what you were saying, like when you're talking about the pain points, because you've actually gone through the pain points and dealing with the pain points, this is how you've started up these two businesses. Do you currently still go through pain points in dealing in your own business?
Yeah, and I think that's the most important part is learning how to innovate and I suppose take customer feedback and I'm obviously still deeply ingrained. I have a lot of domain expertise in our industry, but it's really important for other people, especially my tech team, to have more of a helicopter view of how the platform operates and how the businesses operate, and be able to give that perspective and that feedback and that key learnings, and to keep pivoting, to keep taking on board those learnings and seeing the pain points that we come through as a business and saying, how can we do things better? How can we either innovate the product, or how can we offer a better experience, or how can we add new features and new functionality? So it's a constant sort of iterative process.
So, because I know a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs and business owners, and we quite often like to talk about pain points and sort of hone in and get down to the specific pain point. If there was one specific pain point that you find that it crops up often in your business, what would be that one pain point that you stumble across all the time?
I think with a fragmented team, so our team's obviously based all over the world. So we've got I have obviously people in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. I have team member in Bangkok. I have people in New York. At different times of the year, we have people in London. So at the moment, the biggest pain point for us is learning how to communicate and all stay on the same page when we're not all in the same office, especially at the pace that our business moves at. So we've really learnt to over communicate. So we do talk about it a lot, because we have different methods of communication for different sort of types of communication. So we use Slack for sort of day-to-day chat, which is like a sort of messaging service if you haven't used it. We have emails for certain things. We have WhatsApp groups for certain things. We have Skype for certain things. So we really realised quite early on in the piece that people who were not based in Sydney HQ, especially for the right fit, were feeling really disconnected from the team, and small little details and small little nuances, especially for product build or customer feedback and things like that, can so easily be missed if you're not all in the same office and you're not overhearing conversations. So it's definitely a pain point that we come up, against all of the time, where something might have been missed in communication, or there was an assumption that someone knew that, someone had been told something. So yeah, we're now getting to the point where we're implementing, really great systems and processes, and really all trying to over communicate. So when you think, you've told someone something, or you think everyone's on the same page, just say it again, and organize a face-to-face meeting if you can, or tee up a Skype call. And, we have daily catch-ups, daily stand-up meetings with the tech team. And then we have a once-a-week full team meeting to just really make sure that everyone's on the same page, everyone's heard. And it's also where the great innovation happens, where those little sparks of ideas, really come to fruition, where someone might offer a really valuable insight that might not have been, their particular part of a project, but they'll offer some sort of gem of wisdom. So getting that communication piece down has been really difficult, and I'm not going to say we've perfected it yet, but it's definitely something that we're working on.
Well, you've definitely come up with a few solutions, and I think that with any business, we all fall into that trap of assuming and making assumptions. We've all done it, including myself. I mean, we have people all over the place ourselves, and we quite often do the same thing. We're assuming somebody received our communications, or assuming that they understood exactly what we were talking about. And sometimes you need to have that conversation over again, just to make sure that we are on the same page and we do understand who's doing what kind of thing.
Definitely.
So if I was to ask you, what's that one thing that makes you just jump out of bed in the morning to do what you do?
Oh, for me, it's probably problem solving. I've always loved like seeing problems and thinking, with the right resources and the right people around me, I could solve this. I could make this better. I think that was sort of the genesis for Wink, and definitely for the right fit, trying to connect people, seeing these how industries are adapting and evolving and change, and especially the advent of social media influencers and small bits of digital snackable content. Seeing, okay, this is a pain point for someone. How can we solve it? And I love just getting my hands dirty and going, okay, let's bring the right people together. Let's bring the right resources. Let's sit down and workshop this, and just really getting to the bottom of something and solving that problem is what, I absolutely love.
And that's a really good point of focus, especially in business. It's quite interesting how often many entrepreneurs and business owners actually don't look at their customers' pain points to come up with a solution. They just go out there and this is our product or service without actually realizing.
Knowing if it's actually solving someone's problem.
That's right.
Exactly right.
So it's a great point of focus. So Taryn, with the benefits of hindsight, would you have done anything different?
Oh, definitely. So many things. Definitely. You learn so many things. I was so young when I started my first business, and with the blissful naivety of youth, you really think that you can do it all and you have no idea how difficult it's going to be. And in some ways, I think that's really important, because if you did know how difficult it was going to be, you probably would never get started. So there's just so many things I would have done differently. I would have hired people sooner. I would have hired experts in their field sooner. I would have, there's so many key learnings along the way, and and I still experience them every day. I mean, that one of the reasons that I started The Right Fit was that I was really keen to start learning again, to really challenge myself, and obviously going through raising capital for the first time and scaling a high growth tech company, I've learned so much. So it's definitely things that you look back on and you think, day to day, I think I could have handled that differently. Or when I experience that problem next time, I'm definitely going to use those key learnings from that opportunity and take those snapshots and moments of reflection. And I think it's really important.
Very wise woman. So, Taryn, how did you, if you don't mind me asking, and I'm sure our listeners are thinking the same thing, because I'm sure there's been lots of organisations that have looked at crowdfunding and raising funds. I mean, how did you go about it, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, we were really strategic. So I was in a fortunate position that I didn't have to raise capital. We could continue to self-fund the project. I did have an existing business that was cash flow positive, so I could continue to fund my startup. So we were very strategic in how we went about raising funds. We really sat down. It wasn't just about raising what I call dumb money. We didn't need just capital. We needed really great strategic partners. We needed people who were going to bring so much more than just that cash injection. We needed them to bring skills, expertise, be hands-on, contacts, really be a part of our journey and be a part of our team. So I sat down with my team and went through, okay, well, what would our dream investors look like? What skills would they have? What backgrounds would they come from? What do we need that we don't have? And, one of them was marketplace experience, and, others are advertising agency connections. And so we sat down and really made a hit list of, okay, who would we love to work with? Who inspires us? Who motivates us? Who would we love to have around as that, sounding board? And then we reached out to them and said, we'd love to come in and see you and take you through what we're doing and see if you might be interested in being involved. So that was sort of the genesis of how we got started, and we were very, very lucky to get the exact people that we wanted on our team and invested in and a part of our journey. So
wow, that's
it's not easy, but
you made it sound very easy. That's amazing, because I know for myself, in my past experience, it's not one of those things that's easy. You have to, you go. It's not one of those one conversations. You have to absolutely select the right people with the right talent. Understand, how much also that you require in your project, and be able to talk through the whole why they should invest in what you do. And I know for me that's not an easy process. So you made it sound very seamless and very easy. So what was your trick?
Very daunting.
What was your trick? Obviously, there's something that you've done to make it work for you. That was that. Obviously, something that obviously I need to. We all need to know.
I wish I could tell you that there's a silver bullet solution, and it's just a case of including one particular slide in your IM. But there's no magic solution. I think investors invest in ideas, they invest in founders, they invest in teams and your vision and the blue sky, I guess. So I think obviously it's about we were first to market. Obviously, I had a lot of domain expertise. We had a great team. But yeah, no, look, it definitely wasn't easy. And, you have to be really strategic in how you approach it. And we spent a lot of time getting prepared and making sure we had a really thorough IM together before we went to market, and that we really understood the size of the market and the opportunity there for our investors, and had a really clear financial model and a plan of what we were going to create and how we were going to roll out. So it definitely wasn't easy. By no means was it an easy or quick process. And it's incredibly time consuming and incredibly daunting, especially doing it for the first time. But I think just surround yourself with great people would probably be my best advice. I mean, we had an amazing CFO. I have an amazing mentor who's very, very close to me and working on this project with me. So I think it's just important to have those people around you as a sounding board who've been through this process before and can offer great gems of wisdom and really help guide you, because it is a daunting and overwhelming experience the first time.
Oh, I know it is. It very much so. And I mean, you've got to be prepared to get the no's as well. Did you get any no's?
We actually oversubscribed our round, so it was a little bit of a difficult situation where we had to say no to some people, and we definitely had people that when we got to sort of closing off the round and saying, look, are you in or are you not, who had to say, look, no, unfortunately we can't come in on this round. The offer wasn't right for them at the time. So yeah, it's definitely a difficult, juggling a lot of relationships and making sure that, everyone's on the same page and you all want the same thing, because success has to look the same to you and your investors. That's the most important thing. You have to be aligned as to what success looks like, because, you're all in this journey together, and they only succeed if you succeed. So I think that's really important.
And obviously you didn't use any platform like this, or so many like crowdfunding platforms. You did this on your own?
Yeah, no, we raised straight with venture capital.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's awesome. So what do you think is the number one reason most organisations or businesses fail to succeed?
Oh, gosh, really, in this day and age, it really varies. I mean, I think there's a lot of markets being disrupted at the moment. If companies aren't innovating, aren't looking to innovate, aren't aware of, if they're the incumbent and they're not aware of, what else is happening in their space, and they're not seeing how the landscape is changing, I think we'll see a lot of companies being disrupted in the next sort of 12 to 18 months, especially as startups can be so much more nimble. It's easier to go to market now. The barriers to entry in a lot of markets have changed. So, but I mean, it can be any number of things. It can be a founder, not being able to bring on board the right people. It can be running out of capital before you get product market fit. It can be the state of the economy. There's so many different things, and I think that's the challenges that you face up to every single day, and it is so challenging as a founder and as a startup. So
yeah, because quite often you'll hear startups, they're lucky to make it till 12 months. So we always like to look at what is it that, especially in your industry, I guess too. If you had to look at your industry specifically, what would be that one thing that most of them fail?
I would say probably in our space, not adapting technology, not embracing the changes in technology to expedite like the booking and casting process. Things being still done so manually, which really prevents their ability to scale, and obviously also the opportunity for human error and the cost that can have on a business. So I think that's probably the biggest thing for our industry.
Yeah. And I mean, with every business, including myself, I mean, we all come across roadblocks. And is there any specific roadblock that you come across, and that it's one of those things that, let's look at just one specific roadblock that comes up quite often in your industry?
I think probably in any industry, it's finding the right people, finding your tribe, finding the people that understand your vision, understand the product, that, are really willing to get in the trenches with you every single day. That's a huge challenge, finding people who are the right cultural fit, who have the right skill set, who are at the right place in their lives. And especially in a startup, it's a hugely demanding, role to take on. It's definitely not a 9 to 5, and there's definitely no safety or security or anything like that. So finding those people and getting them flourishing alongside you and really thriving is incredibly difficult. So it's not easy, but when you find them and when you get those right people who are really, kicking goals and really on board with you, it's incredible.
And what's your trick for that? Because we've had quite a few our women of inspirations that have come on this show. This has been one of the things that we've talked about is getting the right people on board. And I think that sometimes your unconscious bias gets in the way. You think this person's a right fit, and it's they look great on paper, and then they come on board and they just don't cut it, kind of thing. So
I wish I had the solution. If anyone else has got the solution, please call me or email me and tell me the solution.
Oh, okay.
No, I think look, the more you experience it, the more people you hire over time. I think you start to get a feel of what's going to work for your organization, the right sort of people to bring on board and that are going to fit well for your team. But there's certainly no easy solution to that one. You're absolutely right. People look great on paper and can just not be the right fit for you internally. Especially in a startup, your company changes so quickly. So they might be the right person now, but they might not be the right person in 6 months' time. So it's keeping abreast of all the changes and trying to look forward and go, okay, is this someone that can grow into that role in 6 months' time? Are they going to be the person that we need as we start to scale and as we open in new markets and things like that. So it's incredibly challenging. I think that people piece is the most challenging part of any organization.
I agree. I absolutely. And you're right. You've got to remain flexible in business and it's true. Sometimes some individuals are right for this role right now, but then maybe in 6 months, 12 months time, you might see them in a different role. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you talked about your tribe. So how do you find, because this is another thing that we always talk about when you're talking about the people piece, is how do you find your right tribe?
I think you have to be really brutally honest in the onboarding process. We try to be absolutely brutally transparent and honest with prospective employees about every single part of our organization, from what we can afford to pay them to what equity options look like down the track to our plans for scaling the business, to culturally how we work, to how the team fits together, to opportunities for growth, to challenges that they're going to come across in their role or in the team. And I think the more open and honest and transparent you can be with prospective employees, the more you're going to find people who are really honestly open to coming on board and being a part of that. Whether they want to embrace that and say, okay, well, this is a company that I see they've been open and honest with me, and this is something that I want to be a part of and that I believe in and that I fiercely, want to fight for and join. But it is incredibly difficult. I think, you do get better at it as you, I suppose, hire and fire more people over the years, just through experience. But no, it is difficult. And hopefully, we're quite lucky now in the people seek you out. People recognize what you're doing, and I think they have an attachment to your brand or your story or what you're trying to create. And we'll reach out and say, I'd love to work with you, and here's why I believe in the idea and the product and the concept.
I just love your energy, full of energy. You're definitely waking me up this morning.
A few coffees in this morning.
The other thing I was thinking of too, as you were speaking, and you're right about finding your tribe. And when we're talking about finding a tribe, and quite often we're talking about, getting really down to specific details about your avatar or your niche market. Are you that specific when it comes to your external tribe? So you're talking about your internal tribe, but your followers. Are you very clear about who they look like? What do they do? What are their pain points? Or how did you go about it?
Yeah, definitely. We spent a lot of time doing, customer research before we launched, especially the right fit, working out what our customer pain points were, exactly what they look like, creating personas of different types of people that would be using the platform, what their pain points are in day to day, everything down to the granularity of, demographics, where they might live, their age, and things like that, to really make sure that we were trying to answer the problems that they were facing. So, I think it's really important to go through that process and work out, okay, who are our users going to be? Are we genuinely solving their problem? What sort of subcategories do they fall into? And how do we message to each of those people? Who are these people that we'll be working with? And how can we talk to them in a language that's relatable to them? How can we solve their problems as quickly and easily as possible? And how can we find them? How can we quickly and easily get to these people and onboard them?
And do you have more than one avatar? Because obviously with the type of business that you've got from Wing to the right fit, you have, I think, a kind of variety of avatars.
Definitely. Our market base is huge. So we work with everything from, startup entrepreneur individuals who are looking to book their very first photographer or their very first social media influencer to launch their brand, right through to global ad groups who are booking, a global television commercial or something. So we definitely have more than one avatar. We definitely have more than one persona of type of client that uses our platform. And also on the talent side, we obviously have a huge range of diverse talent on the platform. So everything from photographers, makeup artists, social media influencers, bloggers, actors, stylists of all different ages and ethnicities and backgrounds and locations. So it's been really interesting, definitely seeing the feedback from both sides of the marketplace and definitely learning how to solve those problems for those different groups.
And do you, from a social marketing point of view, when you actually talk to your different avatars, do you have to change depending on what your target market or who you are speaking to, or do you just do more of an overarching message to your tribe?
Yeah, we definitely spent a lot of time at the start getting very clear on our tone of voice. And it's one of the first things that I do when I launch a company is really sit down and work on, firstly, internally cultural values and making sure everyone's on board with those, but then working out what our tone of voice is as a company, how we speak, what our values are, and how we communicate those publicly. So there is definitely a consistency across how we speak to all of these different personas. It definitely needs to be consistent. I think that's incredibly important. People need to identify with your brand and understand that how they're going to be spoken to, what our values are, and how those come through and how we communicate. But of course, there's definitely different messaging for both sides of the marketplace. So how we speak to talent, especially our younger generation on social media, is very different, of course, to how we speak to established brands and corporates.
Well, you're a very, very wise woman. I'm sitting here going, I still can't believe how much you've done and how much you're doing at a very young age. And so on that, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, gosh, there's so many things I wish I'd known now that I knew then that I know now. Probably there's a lot of things. Yeah, get the right people around you as quickly as possible so that you can scale and don't feel like you have to do it all yourself. Have a mentor. My mentor's been absolutely invaluable to me, and having someone around you as an independent sounding board that you can really bounce ideas off and who can keep you grounded and, be there in your corner, I think is incredibly important because it can be very isolating and lonely journey otherwise. And probably just to enjoy the ride a little bit more. I think it's very hard when you're in a business, working in a business, to sort of take a helicopter view and have an appreciation of what you're creating and the people that you're working with. When you're sort of fighting day to day and putting out the fires and battling through. So I think probably to take a little bit more of a broader perspective and take a moment to snapshot some of the journey along the way and really appreciate those moments because it's easy to miss them otherwise.
Oh, it's so true, isn't it? I agree with what you're saying. We get so caught up being in the business that we forget to take that view or the helicopter view or even looking back at what you've achieved because we're so focused on moving forward.
Yeah, and there's always something else to do, isn't there?
Absolutely, I know. So who's been your greatest influence?
Oh, wow. It's a great question. There's been a few people over the years that over different periods of my life, I think that have been incredibly influential, depending on the problems that I was sort of trying to solve or going through at the time. I had a mentor when I was 18 or 19 who was from an advertising agency background who really taught me so much about the space and how businesses operated, how startups operated, all the problems of managing a team and growing a company. So he was incredibly valuable to me. And my mentor now has a background, he's a CTO and background in tech and entrepreneurship and has grown and scaled and sold and exited like a number of companies. So he's been incredibly vital to me in going through this. It's growing a very different type of company. The right is so different to Wink. And so it's just been so amazing having someone like that around me to mentor me and to really show me the ropes and keeping you abreast of what you need to be looking for as the company grows so quickly. So and then of course my parents have been incredibly grounding and supportive, and I'm so lucky to have such wonderful friends and family around me who are such champions and such support and that grounding influence when things can get a little bit difficult.
Oh, that's amazing. So what we always do with every woman of inspiration that comes on the show, we always ask them to pick one word that best describes their personal brand. So what would be that one word for you?
Oh, gosh. One word. Oh, God, I feel like we should poll this and ask people what they think.
Well, you could if you wanted to.
I suppose people would probably say driven. I think I really like the word grit. There's an amazing TED talk on grit. If anyone hasn't watched it, they really should. About really digging deep, and it's everyone gets knocked down. Everyone has hard times and moments where things don't go your way. And the most important thing is being able to get back up. That grit to drive and say I can solve this, or I can get back up and try again. And that's what really keeps you going. So either of those I'll take.
I love grit. It's a great word. And I do see you, look, just speaking to you and hearing about your journey, I definitely find you very motivated, highly motivated. It's amazing. You've got an amazing drive.
Oh, thank you so much. It really means a lot.
No. And so the other thing we do as we wrap up the show, we always ask our lovely woman of inspiration to leave us with 3 golden nuggets for our listeners. So what would be those 3 shiny golden nuggets that you would like to leave for our listeners?
Oh, these are great. Talking about personal brand, I think one thing I didn't know at the start, or that I hadn't really thought about, is that you have a personal brand whether or not you choose to control it or not. So whether or not you, take control of it or don't, you have that. It's inherently part of who you are as an entrepreneur or a business person. So I probably didn't decide to really take control of my personal brand until the last sort of 24 months. And I think it's something really valuable to sit down and decide, who am I and what causes resonate with me, and how do I want to be perceived, and how can I control that so that, you're really in the driver's seat instead of it sort of happening around you and, being at cause instead of being at effect. So I think that's one thing that I recommend people do: sit down and really think about, what do I want my personal brand to be, and then aligning yourself with, charities and missions and, careers and people that align with that. I think that's one thing I'd recommend. Probably taking time out. This is something that, look, I wish I had another silver bullet solution for you here, but trying to get some perspective, trying to find a way to do that. Mine at the moment, whilst I don't have it nailed, is just trying to have a regular exercise routine and then having a digital detox. So I don't have phones in the bedroom. It's a rule in our house. So phones go on charge downstairs and don't come into the bedroom. And I think that's just a really important way. There's this always on mentality, and obviously, especially with international offices, there's always someone online and always something that needs to be done. But I can't bring my best self every day to my team if I'm drained and not sleeping well and not looking after myself first. So I think that's really important. Find a way to, whether it is exercise or meditation or yoga or having a digital detox. I think finding something that works for you so that you're nourishing yourself is really, really important. And then the last one, you find those tribe, those people that you can get flourishing alongside you, the people who are going to be your biggest champions, whether it's personally or professionally, someone that's going to be in your corner and be your biggest cheerleader, and that can champion your success, I think is really important, because it's an incredibly tough journey. It's not easy. It's not meant to be easy, otherwise everyone would do it. So finding those people that have got your back and obviously that you've got theirs, and that can be your sounding board and are there for the ride, because you will need them. You'll need someone to call on, and so find them and reach out to them and make sure they know how much they mean to you, and that they're so valuable, and you can obviously give that to someone else too.
Oh, gosh, I love them. Love those 3 golden nuggets. And I love it. It's true about your personal brand. You're always on, even whether, like you said, whether you actually acknowledge it or not. It's even the way that we talk, the way that we listen, the way that we act, the way that we write. We're on the show the whole time.
Yeah.
But I think that I like the fact that it's like, make a decision of what your personal brand is going to be for you, and then live that, which I love that, which quite often you find people don't even do that.
Yeah, it's so easy to just sort of let life happen. And I think when you take those moments to really sit down and get clarity on those things, everything becomes so much easier. It's so much easier to make decisions about whether you should be involved in something or whether you're going to take that interview or hire that person or be involved in that charity, when you really are clear about who you are as an individual and who your personal brand is.
I just love that. Love them all. So, Taryn, thank you so much for your time. How will our listeners find you?
I'm on Instagram, just Taryns Williams. Both of our companies are on Instagram as well, so it's just at Wink Models or at theright.fit. You can definitely reach out to me via email, just Taryn@theright.fit, or look me up on LinkedIn.
Thank you once again so much for coming on the show. It's been such a pleasure, and I'm like I said, I'm delighted that we finally got to catch up.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That brings us to the end of another episode. I hope you enjoyed the show, as it is my mission to reach out and inspire as many individuals like you. And one of the best ways to help us achieve this goal is by giving us a good review on iTunes. It's easy and it only takes about 10 seconds. If you have any questions or special guests that you would like to hear from, please send us an email to support@catherineplano.com.au and we will get right back to you. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook @Catherine Plano. That's it for now. Thanks for listening. Until next week, please take care.